Controlling the display of the Subgrade Model Manager environment is very important. Just simply knowing how to turn things on and off to give you clarity on certain areas, and also being able to change things like the colors and the line types, etc. Is also very important. So I'm going to explore that in this video. First of all, I'm just going to zoom into a particular area around this intersection so we can see what's happening. You'll notice that at the moment we're getting what looks like a rendered material for our surface and triangulation, and this is controlled through the style at the top here, so we can go and choose in similar fashion to Model Viewer a particular style, so we can see rendered, which obviously emits the triangulation. I personally actually prefer rendered with edges because it helps me see how everything is connected together. You can also choose a few of these other options as well. In respect of the visual items that are being displayed in here at the moment, we're seeing initially something called regions. So I'm just going to pan over to this area of the environment here. Now, a region is essentially a layer of subgrade found on my template. Now you can see in the cross-section view showed on the screen at the moment that I'm actually seeing the bottom layer of subgrade of my particular template being applied through road 1 here. If I wanted to see regions that were not being used for the basis of my subgrade surface, I can check on emitted regions, and what this is essentially doing is showing me absolutely everything on my templates. You can see here I'm now seeing the curb and the other 2 layers of subgrade on my road, which are not part of this subgrade surface. So if I don't want to see them anymore, I can just say emitted regions, toggle those off, so I'm no longer seeing them. So I'm only seeing regions which are being used for the basis of my subgrade surface. Seeing the sectional break lines and linear break lines, I would say, is the most useful part of this, because we can actually select, as you'll see now, we can actually select different aspects of this view, it being the linear break line or the sectional break line. So if you can't see these, you've actually got nothing to select. However, you may find in certain scenarios that you do want those turned off. There are lots of break lines that are not being displayed, and again, similarly to the emitted regions, we turn those off by toggling the emitted break line. So these are break lines, or effectively codes on our design, that are not being used for the basis of this subgrade model. So we're actually looking at different layers here of subgrade, but because they're emitted, we put them into a different line cell and line weight, which you can control within the display manager. We've also got the option of displaying things such as the existing surface and the design surface. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly zoom out here, head out to the top of road 1 so we can clearly see what's happening, and just turn on the existing surface, which can be useful aid in context to what's happening with your design, and the design surface. So this will actually show me my cross-section design. Now what you may notice is that the subgrade surface terminates at the end of the footpath, but my road design actually continues up to a code at the end here and a batter. And the reason why this doesn't get displayed is because simply there is no subgrade found on this part of the template. This is a footpath code, as you can see in the cross-section view, and then we have a boundary code, and then we have the batter. If there is no subgrade being applied, there is nothing for the subgrade model manager to display. If you do want subgrade to be applied there of any sort, you can always put a 0 thickness subgrade layer within this area so that something is displayed in the subgrade model manager. We'll check those both off for the time being. You may find that as you're operating, having these items unchecked until you actually need to see them can also improve performance. The subgrade surface is basically the surface that is going to be created from this model. So ultimately this is what will appear in Surface Manager. You can then use for things like volume surfaces. If I uncheck this, it simply turns off the display. Now where you've got areas where there's some complexity of different things going on, I suggested that you turn that off until such time that you would need to see it. The same goes with the labels. Now we have chainage labels, section labels, and string labels, all of which can be turned on. They may be useful, but where you've got very dense sampling, that you may find that the chainage labels actually overlap each other because it's picking up every single sample. In most cases, we would just recommend that you don't have those turned on unless you absolutely need them. And the same goes with the section labels, which you can see here will actually show the different aspects of my section. If we zoom in here, you'll begin to see them. So they have a zoom control. So as I begin to zoom in, I can actually see the different thicknesses and the different slopes and the different materials being applied on my subgrade or in my template. String labels will also show the labeling of the particular string that we're working on, which is one of the defaults that we have in Model Viewer, but you can choose to turn that on or off. Let's now have a look at how Display Manager works in conjunction with these display items.